Now, the question for those looking to put money to work or forced to put money to work is whether or not you climb on board with the winners or you visit the island of misfit stocks for the Santa Claus rally. Joining me now, Rob Luna, Wealth Academy founder Rob Luna. Rob, you were cautious for a few weeks there. You more constructive now?
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. I mean, if you look at the market right now, the market is telling you that it wants to rally, it wants a Santa Claus rally, and I'd be a little bit of a contrarian about that oil play. If you look at oil, Charles, over the last 3 years, that index has done about 140% versus 30% on the S&P. So I actually think some money coming out of there into some of these growth stock names is just going to, provide some more fuel. So I think the market looks completely different than it did a few weeks ago right now, Charles.
But to that point, though, I mean, if you bought oil this year, you're not necessarily doing that well. And I think a lot of people pile in thinking the Middle East chaos is going to see a spike.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about what it means for the economy, maybe the global economy. But one thing I will say, Rob, you were cautious, but you also shared ideas. And I want to give you some props here because I know you had Coin, Roblox, CrowdStrike. They have had huge runs just in the last few weeks. Are you still holding those?
Yeah, I still like them. All those three names are thematic names that I'm holding long term, especially when it comes to a name like Coinbase and CrowdStrike. Those are big themes. Cybersecurity, cryptocurrency, they're not going anywhere, Charles.
So that's your theme now. That's do you have any other? So these themes, by the way, are these 1 to 3 year, 5 year? How long do these theme ideas run?
Well, look, I mean, I think these are a lot bigger themes, Charles. Look, we've had this big market correction that started a couple of years ago. It reminds me a lot of 1998, where we had a changing of the guards of new leaders. No one liked Amazon, no one liked Google. You have to start looking for the next Amazon and Google. And I think we're at an inflection point right now where you got to look at the names like Coinbase, cybersecurity, names like CrowdStrike. Those are going to be the leaders, I believe, Charles, over the next decade.
A decade ago, no, maybe 2 decades ago, one of the hottest stocks on the street was TZOO. It went up parabolic like 1,000,000%, then came down parabolic like 1,000,000%. I noticed it's on your list. You're like TZOO, CAVA, and Etsy. What's the theme running through those?
Well, TZOO, I think, is just way undervalued here. That stock, like you said, that was one of the darlings, 1998. That stock came out. But if you look at the valuations, they've got a solid business model right here, Charles. And if you look at the momentum, talk about momentum on this stock, I think this stock could go up 30 to 40%. Full disclosure, I personally bought some in my own account this morning.
All right, now I know you've talked about CAVA before. What about Etsy here?
Yep.
Etsy had a big, huge move last year into this year,
Yep.
gave some back, and it feels like, I don't know, I like the way it's acting more recently, but what's the ultimate play for them? Would they be an acquisition target maybe?
Yeah, I think so, Charles. Look, this is still a best in breed. They identified a very profitable niche. The stock has gotten absolutely crushed. It was one of those darlings of COVID. We all know that. But I think, look, if you're looking out to next year, some of these names that got beaten up, like Etsy, I think could be leaders. An acquisition target, I definitely think Etsy is. And right here, pretty good valuations compared to where it's traded for the last year or two.
I'm assuming then, Rob, you think the Fed's out of the way for now?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're getting towards the end, Charles, and that's the whole thing. When you look at the economy, we've talked about this before, probably going to get a little bit worse. That's why oil's not doing so good. But by the time people realize how bad the economy is, stocks will be much higher than what we're seeing them trade at today.
All right. Hey, good seeing you, Rob. Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charles.